Hey everyone! Today we're diving into the heated controversy surrounding Donald Trump's massive budget bill. It's got tax cuts for the rich, slashes to Medicaid, and a whole lot of drama in Congress. Let's break down what happened and why it's causing such a stir.
We don't know if it will pass. We do know it is deeply unpopular, and it is laying bare one of the biggest, starkest contradictions in MAGA and Republican politics, sort of the defining tension at the heart of this whole era, a contradiction that's been there since the beginning. You might not remember this, but back in Donald Trump's first months as president, remember the first thing they did was to push an Obamacare repeal bill that slashed Medicaid. It included tax cuts for investors. And it didn't exactly jive with his campaign shtick of standing up for the little guy.
A Bloomberg analysis showed that counties that voted for you, middle class and working class counties, would do far less well under this bill than the counties that voted for Hillary, the more affluent counties.
I know.
It seems like maybe this isn't consistent with the message of the last election.
No, a lot of things aren't consistent, but these are going to be negotiated. We will take care of our people, or I'm not signing it.
He's going to take care of his people. You could take that to the bank. Well, he never got a chance to sign it because famously it died in the Senate, but he was pushing hard for it, just like he pushed successfully for this tax cuts for billionaires and corporations that he did sign into the law last time he was president.
Chris Hayes nails it here. This bill exposes a core contradiction. Trump's campaign promised to champion the working class, but the bill's massive Medicaid cuts and corporate tax breaks seem to favor the ultra-rich instead.
The bill is going to be especially ruinous to the rural white Trump base. But their elected Republican lawmakers don't seem to mind or care or know. I don't know. They're just voting in lockstep with Trump to make the rich richer and the poor poorer. It happens to be the district with the highest percentage of residents on Medicaid in the entire country.
This is where it gets real. Rural communities, Trump's strongest supporters, could lose hospitals and healthcare access due to these cuts. Yet many MAGA lawmakers are still backing the bill, despite the backlash.
So right now you have four Republicans who are voting no. That is enough to stop this bill, assuming everybody who was there earlier votes. Now, I think this is going to pass still. Well, let me be very clear. There are times when you are the speaker and you decide you're going to go to the floor and you don't have the votes and you just go.
And this is a Mike Johnson tactic, too.
Well, we used it. Every speaker I've worked for, there have been moments where you're close. You're really close to the number of votes you need, but you're not quite there. And you decide we're just going to do it. Because there is an incredible amount of pressure and intensity in a vote like this on the floor. And those members who are voting no are all going to be visited by their colleagues. And they all know that Mike Johnson's pretty serious at this point, because Mike Johnson has done this before, when it was funding the government earlier this year, when it was the vote just for him to get speaker again. Both those times, he went to the floor without the votes, and they flipped people on the floor and got there. I think that's the same strategy they're doing here. They are so close that they're not making the progress they need just by talking to people. So now they're ramping up the pressure and going to do it on the floor. We saw earlier that Mike Johnson is willing to keep the floor votes open for as long as it takes, just, I guess, broke the record earlier. So I think he'll keep this vote open as long as it takes for the handful of folks who are currently voting no, or at least one of them, to flip their vote and probably use the peer pressure of their colleagues, probably call them into the cloakroom and have the president give them a call. I don't think you're going to get Thomas Massie, but there's a handful of others who are voting no.
The bill's fate hung in the balance as a few Republicans pushed back, worried about the political fallout in their districts. But with intense pressure from Trump and House Speaker Mike Johnson, some holdouts flipped their votes.
You know, Democrats have been crying since the day Donald Trump got elected, so it's no surprise that they still are, because they know he's somebody who's not afraid to take on big challenges. He absolutely has been crushing it since day one, and the Democrats are terrified of the level of success that he's bringing to the country. They don't want to see a secure border. They don't want to see tax cuts made permanent. They don't want to see a president who's fighting to move people from welfare to work. They want people to continue to be trapped on the government dependency. They want our borders to be wide open. There's a reason that we're at the lowest number of illegal crossings since the 60s under this president compared to what we saw under Joe Biden over the previous 4 years. It is a night and day difference, and I'm glad that we finally have a president that's willing to stand up and fight for our country and do things that matter.
as one of the only people in this body who has lived off of tips, I want to tell you a little bit about the scam of that text. This bill is a deal with the devil. We cannot stand for it, and we will not support it. You should be ashamed.
I mean, it honestly, if we hadn't seen so much from AOC, we would think she was an SNL skit. It is so laughable and absurd, the things that she continues to say, not just about this bill, but generally. She should not be a member of Congress with the kind of crazy things that she's spouting.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders defends the bill, framing it as Trump delivering on campaign promises like no taxes on tips. But critics, including Democrats like AOC, call it a betrayal, arguing it hurts the very people Trump claims to represent. So, there you have it, a bill that sparked fierce debate, pitting Trump's promises against the reality of its impact. Will it pass? And at what cost to his voters? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more breakdowns like this.